Welcome to another episode of Bleducation. I am Brando. And I'm going to show my shirt real quick. It says Black history is backwards. We can fix that though. Black history is deeper than the textbooks. That's why we're here.
Well, I'm Mia. Sorry I didn't have no exciting intro for y'all.
It's okay.
He just
We can
got
work
up
on
and was
it.
like, I'm going to jump in.
We can work on it. We can work on
That
it.
was not a part of the plan.
Black history matters. All right, what we talking about today? We gotta be hyped. We gotta be hyped today.
No,
of all days. Can we talk about Juneteenth?
I'm about to say, yeah, today's a dope
Yeah,
topic,
you know, it is a Negro holiday.
It is a Negro holiday. And now I'm about to say, now it's an everybody holiday. And we're going to talk about how I feel about that because I have strong opinions.
You just want it to be, okay.
Yeah, it should be a Negro holiday.
Okay.
But again, we'll get there, whatever.
All right, Juneteenth. Juneteenth.
You got to start at the roots.
All right. Start at the roots. All right. So, you know, our country was built on something called chattel slavery. Okay. Ooh. So, you know, we all know about slavery, what the things were. Okay. So just to do a little bit of backtracking. All right. With Juneteenth, we have to kind of talk about the Civil War a little bit. Okay.
And I know we've done that.
All right. So, you know, the North and the South, they were beefing with each other. The girls are fighting. The girls are fighting. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So, at this point in time, though, the North is like losing. Like it's like the things are not happening for them. So we all know. We talked about Lincoln and how we feel about that. All right. So Lincoln was not this charitable guy. It was just like, let me just, you know, like,
free the slaves.
Yeah, you know, he was very pragmatic. So he was just like, everything was calculated. So he waited until the Union had a very strategic victory, and he decided to announce the Emancipation Proclamation, January 1st, 1863. Yes. Yep. So we're about like halfway through the war at this point in time.
Because it doesn't end until 65.
Right. I mean, well, technically, you know, people was fighting after that.
Right, you know, after the official, what is it, the last battle, people are still going. I'm like, how's the last battle?
Well, news travels slow, but we'll get to
the whites'
that too.
history. So what are we
But anyway, so Abraham Lincoln, he is going to issue this proclamation that basically is going to free slaves only in rebelling states.
Yes, so I was about to say that's the tricky part that
people don't, because you have about I want to say 4 or 5 border states. So you have Missouri, Maryland, Delaware. West Virginia when it broke off from Virginia, and am I missing one?
Yeah, I don't know. So.
Yeah, okay. So you have some border states, okay? So they were basically still states that were slave states at the time, but they did not secede from the Union at the time. So you still have a high population of slaves that live across this area that are not affected by the Emancipation Proclamation at all. Right. This was meant specifically to be a blow to the South, okay? This was like...
Which,
you know...
I'm sorry, I've always just kind of found ironic because the point of the Emancipation Proclamation was to reunite, you know, the Union. And this was like, actually, y'all can come back, but you will not have your slaves.
So I have a different theory. So I think that... you know, like when you look at the beginning of the Civil War, you know, people were super excited about this war happening, especially people in the South. They were actually like women and children. They like at the very beginnings, first battles of the war, they would actually get picnic blankets and like make it like a whole thing and like come out there and actually like watch the battle. Like everyone was excited to be at war, but then like
that is really fucking weird.
But then you move in like 2 or 3 or 4 years into, you know, this war, and people are tired. Like I'm tired. People are deserting the army in droves, even though like if you deserted, like you got caught, that's execution. Right. But people are leaving. Anyway. You know, people are leaving like in.
Is that a phone?
So sorry. Okay, you know. The iPhone one is to chime in on the things.
So anyway,
sorry. But yeah, so people are like deserting the army in droves, and so Lincoln is really, I think, very calculated in releasing or issuing this proclamation for the rebelling state slaves, because I think what he really wanted to happen. This is just my thought. I'm thinking that he wants these slaves to essentially like run away and migrate north, and you know to replenish his army, because you see the same tactic happening in the Revolutionary War too, where the British are promising freedom to these slaves in exchange for fighting for them. So I think that it's one of those things like if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So I think that
for sure.
So that's just
and I forget about that tactic when we talk about the American Revolution. Like, I absolutely want to do an episode about that. Like,
okay, we for sure can. So Abraham Lincoln is going to free these slaves down in the rebelling states,
the South.
So the Confederacy, all of those things, yes. The South. But what's essentially going to happen is, like, I mean, if I was a slave owner,
how would they know?
How would they know?
And
they're not gonna know.
How would they know?
You know?
Okay, but listen. Okay, so Emancipation Proclamation happens in 1863, right? Mm-hmm. And then we don't get the end of the Civil War until 1865. So what we see happen is within the span of 2 years, they just simply kind of be like, if you don't tell, I won't tell.
Right.
Like, quite literally. And also, you do have to think about, things did have to absolutely travel through the grapevine. They don't have cell phones. Like, for example, right now, and heaven forbid, but if slavery was happening right now, they could pick up the phone and be like, hey, you're going to have to free them.
It was like,
you know what I'm saying?
That movie with Janelle Monáe where they was like slaves, but it was like in present day, but it was like Antebellum. Have you not seen that?
I don't watch slave movies, and we'll talk about that one day too. Okay. I don't do it. Yeah, but theoretically speaking, when you have people like house Negroes and things like that, they're going to hear you on the phone and be like, hey, y'all, they said we free. Like, but back in the day, they didn't have stuff like that.
And
word had to travel slow.
And then you also have to realize that, like, the South is still actively in war with Lincoln. So anything that he says,
right?
They're not listening to that man.
We don't give a fuck about none of that shit you're talking about.
Do not care, like, at all. So,
actually,
but of course, when Robert E. Lee does this surrender thing at Appomattox, so now things kind of, have to be enforced. But this is where we tie in Texas to this, because
the greatest
Texas had essentially already been cut off from the rest of the Confederacy in the Battle of Vicksburg, which split them from the eastern part of the Confederacy. So they were essentially fighting their own
Texas war always doing their own thing. Look at the grid. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just
you are not going to get slaves finding out that they're free until Union troops arrive on June 19th, 1865. So this is essentially
in Galveston, Texas.
2.5 years. Yeah. So this is like 2.5 years after Lincoln is going to issue this proclamation that slaves are not going to find out that they are essentially free. And there is a little bit of intention behind this, because a lot of slave owners knew that the South was losing. They knew that this was probably going to be enforced, and they still refused to tell their slaves, because they wanted to exploit them for another year so that they could bring in their cotton harvest.
Which, and not to in any way try to defend them, but this is also very similar to what we see happen with, like, oh my goodness, what is it? I know this is gonna happen one day.
Well, we're here.
I get thoughts in my mind all the time, and I'm like,
what's it about? Like, what's the
older people not listening to things?
Like older Black people? Just older people.
Just older people.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We can table it. It'll come back to you.
It will. Absolutely will come back to me. But also, we see this reflected in, like, when we actually do get to Reconstruction, when you talk about, like, them placing federal troops into the South and then withdrawing them and things like that. That's not where I was going, but that's a point to make. So, we got somewhere.
No. I like it. So it's essentially now they're free, but then you have this whole idea of, like, well, what's going to happen now? Because so you're going to have some former slaves that are going to essentially become sharecroppers, which is a perpetual form of slavery.
But they give you a few dimes. So.
Yeah, Then you're gonna have people that are setting out to reunite like with their families that they're split from. And then also you have the first form of the Great Migration, where you're gonna have Black people traveling en masse north because the South is racist, and they have no rights, and we can. So, but what ends up happening is, for whatever reason, like a year later, a lot of these people, especially that have traveled away from Galveston, Texas, are going to come back, and they're going to celebrate on the anniversary of finding out the news that they were free. And the celebration is going to turn into an annual thing, and it's going to be called Juneteenth after June 19th.
Can we just take a second to pause and talk about how beautiful this celebration is? I remember like being a young child and my mom having the Juneteenth shirts. Like, and I don't even remember like knowing the history of it at that time, but I knew that was the day that we all went to the park. Everybody was cooking. We was hanging out with the fam. We was you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was a community thing. My community actually like put on a Juneteenth picnic. Like, everybody went to the park. The dads was fishing. The kids was playing on the playground. You know, it was like an actual thing. And again, I didn't even know the history of Juneteenth at that time. But like, I just remember being like, man, this is mad dope. Like, and it's just such a beautiful tradition that we have created within our community. And the fact that it comes out of this, while, you know, them getting emancipated is a beautiful thing, but the fact that it comes out of us being enslaved is like, it's just, it's crazy to even think about, because again, now Juneteenth is something that we celebrate. Everybody, even like, everybody look forward to Juneteenth. When you get on Twitter on Juneteenth, everybody like, all right, so where the barbecue at? What we doing tonight? Like, it's just, it's such a celebration for us, and I absolutely love that for us.
Yeah, so I have a couple of points that I like to, you know me.
Lord, here we go, y'all. Y'all know negative Nancy over here.
I'm not negative Nancy. I'm just a realist. Okay. Now, my question is like, okay, like we have like this whole thing where, you know, like where we're supposed to be against like Black people, like the trauma porn, if you will, like of like not being reminded. Like I think you said that like you don't even like to watch slave movies or anything like that.
Never will.
But then it's just kind of like, okay, well, Juneteenth, yes, we're celebrating the end of slavery, but is it not also like you're still being reminded of slavery in that moment? Like, well, yeah, we get it's the end of it, but like, I mean, it's not like there wasn't equity for Black people during that time. It was just like, yeah, you aren't slaves anymore because they said that you aren't slaves anymore. But essentially, to be honest, most Black people during that time are still, I mean, with the passage of the 13th Amendment, are still perpetually slaves, either through that or through, you know, sharecropping. They're still like, so conditions aren't like really that much better in my head. So, I mean, that's just to me. So I kind of like, and I think it's also kind of weird a little bit that they came back to Texas to celebrate this, because
I think it was monumental.
I'm like, if I'm going up north, I am not coming back down here to celebrate and remember. Why? So they can arrest me? So they can arrest me and use the 13th Amendment to exploit me and put me in a chain gang?
A few things. So I think the returning to Texas is to make a statement. Okay. And I think that it's monumental, and I think that it's less impactful if we're doing it in the North, especially if we're in a particular place that we know was about abolition, that actually supported the Union.
Oh, they were racist in the North.
I know that they were racist, but if we're looking at that particular time, we are dealing with a lot of Black people that don't necessarily have that context. So what they know is that the North is not racist, right? Okay. So we're going up here. It wouldn't be the same to celebrate this thing here. But if we go back to where we came from, this is because, I mean, again, we are brought over here. We don't know a lot of our ancestry at this point. Right. This is where we came from. We're going to go back to where we came from and celebrate this and let them know that we're free, we're happy, we're living lives. We're living our life, right? Yeah. And I also think that while it can be construed as like celebrating an end to slavery and in a sense celebrating us being enslaved at a particular point, I also think that we have to acknowledge the fact that like Black people were enslaved, obviously, right? And we reserve the right to celebrate that particular freedom. I think there's a difference between us being able to celebrate being free and dealing with things like, I don't know, fucking 12 Years a Slave. Like, I think there's a very big difference, because when you watch something like 12 Years a Slave, he got freed at the end, but throughout the whole damn movie, all we saw was them breaking people's teeth out to feed them and beating them, whipping them. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a very big difference in seeing like okay, this is one thing that is incredibly traumatizing, and we're seeing something that is harmful to Black people, and then taking this and saying this is when we gained our freedom, and we're going to celebrate that no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a big difference with
I
that.
think I also probably have a different perspective because I didn't grow up personally in Texas, and so Juneteenth was definitely a big Texas holiday. I actually didn't know anything about Juneteenth until I moved to Texas back about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction. So
quite literally, my mom.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but my mom has these old T-shirts, and it's, you know, they Negro T-shirts, bro. Like, I'm not even gonna front. Like, they got like MLK on them, Malcolm X, Rosa, and like some little childish quotes on the back. But that's one of the things that I know for sure. Heaven forbid if anything ever happens to my mom, that's one thing that I want to keep from her. Like, that is just because it's such a beautiful memories, right? And it's such a beautiful thing. And I remember her wearing them with so much pride. And my mom's not really big on knowing a lot of history. She's not really big on being like argumentative for certain things like that. But like, I remember her wearing that. She had a yellow one and a green one, and I remember she would put that yellow one on, and she just glowing. Like, I just remember things like that, and like, it's such a big deal down here that I remember like, you know, my cousins, my aunties wearing them too. So it's just like, I think for Texas, it's just a little bit different because it was here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think as an adult, like learning about it, and then living here for, you know, these past few years, I kind of realized the impact that it was like a really huge thing. And then like, I'm like, anything that's gonna have me around a lot of Black people, sign me up anyway.
Right. So, and barbecue.
And food. Oh, I'm there.
But okay.
So is this the colloquial cookout situation kind of?
Whatever. I do not acknowledge this cookout, but if we have to say it, then yes.
We should talk about the cookout.
Okay, well, let's talk about the cookout and the making it a federal holiday, because I have feelings about both of those things.
Okay, well, yes, go ahead.
Obviously, I feel very strongly about them.
Come on.
Because I am so attached to Juneteenth, I do feel a certain type of way about them making it a federal holiday that everybody gets to celebrate and get off of work for. I feel a way about it.
So only the Black people need to be
only the Black people should be able. We were the only ones enslaved. I'm just being honest. You can call me a separatist. You can call me racist. You can call me what you want. But I'm telling you, we deserve that day off. They need to go to work. I'm sorry. It sounds.
But I mean, how would that work in theory though? Because you're gonna have someone.
If you are not a Negro, you don't have no Negro.
Okay, but they're the one drop. They're gonna be like one drop rule.
No. No. No.
They're like one drop rule.
If you have never been followed around the store,
my great grandma.
If you have never been followed around the store, you cannot come. Let me see what else. If you ain't, I don't even know. We're gonna have to make a checklist or something. And that's, again, I know it sounds terrible, but I don't care. I know it sounds bad, but I do not care. That is not a holiday that everybody should get to enjoy. I don't give a fuck about what none of y'all talking about. I don't support it. I hate it because all the whites on there talking about, oh my God, we're gonna acknowledge Juneteenth.
Did you see that flyer for Arkansas?
And do you see why it should be a Negro holiday?
They were like, it's a Juneteenth celebration, and it was all white people, and they dragged that on.
They
Twitter.
are doing
Black Twitter got a hold of that. It was like, hell no.
Have you lost your damn mind? And that is why I believe in just a little bit of gatekeeping.
Okay.
I believe in a little bit of gatekeeping. Because think about this cookout, this theoretical cookout that's not even happening. Everybody get invited to it, they can hit a jig.
Gatekeeper.
I'm a gatekeeper. I do not give a fuck.
I'm
I don't support
a gatekeeper of Black culture for sure. But I mean, that's
I appreciate it being acknowledged because it deserves that.
Yes.
But again, they should go to work.
And I also
and not just white people, Japanese, all of them. If you're not Black, you go to work. That's the rule.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, Joe Biden said otherwise.
Whatever.
But even with that too, I mean, true. I also think that was pretty performative. Because that happened. That passed like right around the time that the whole country is outraged about like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd.
When we was mad,
we were mad and angry and upset. So it's like, okay, here you go. Like, here's a little holiday for you. Like, okay, we're gonna acknowledge it. Kind of thing. And the history behind it is just so much more impactful.
Thank you. And MLK Day, I get it, because MLK, his whole vision was integration, right? But Juneteenth, y'all was literally. Again, we're celebrating us being the last ones to find out that we're free people. Go to work.
Which is fucked up in itself. That it took 2.5 years.
Yeah. Go to work. I don't give a damn. Like, y'all can say I'm holding on to a grudge. That's fine.
Hey, I am not going to stand in your way of that argument.
Listen, I'm just saying what the people want.
Love
y'all though. I love that. Go to work.
I love that we're problematic on this podcast.
Absolutely problematic as fuck.
I love it.
But I
can't wait till this airs.
I absolutely mean it. It's just one day.
So I can argue with people.
It's just one day.
Yeah.
It's just like having a safe space. And, maybe it should, theoretically speaking, if we're talking about coming from a place of equality, like, I get why it would absolutely be an issue. But again, it's a Black holiday that we've celebrated for years, and now all of a sudden it's a federal holiday, and everybody's about to be having Juneteenth sales and stuff. Because that's why I hate Pride Month ruined. Because of all the companies that come out, get this deal in Pride, you ruined it. Everything got a freaking rainbow on it. Like, it's just, and they not about to do that to my sacred holiday of Juneteenth. I will not allow it. I will riot. Let me tell you something.
All right. I'm going to riot. You're going to riot on Juneteenth?
Yes.
Like, on the day?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe the day after, though, because I like my daily barbecue. But
okay, that's fair. You want to do it on a full stomach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Need a rest.
Okay, got it. All right. Well, I think that I've learned a little bit about Juneteenth from an angry Texan, actually. All right.
Damn.
So that's probably what I needed. I am, again, not from Texas, so I did not grow up on Juneteenth being a thing. But again,
well, maybe y'all need to go to work too, actually.
Wow, so now you just wanted to
maybe just the Texans, the Negro Texans. Wow. We get to stay home. Everybody else got to go.
Got it. All right. Well, that'll wrap up today's episode. Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth,
guys. All right, and I am Brando, and I am free. Okay, and you are what? I mean. What? I'm free.
You're going to work on Juneteenth. I hope you're ready for that.
No. Summer. We're teachers. We're teachers. We're teachers.
I'm going to personally escort you.
But when I taught this lesson about Juneteenth, like, the kids were like, "Oh, we're out of school." I'm like, "Yeah, it's June 19th. You're already out of school." Like, have I taught you anything? Also, they had to create like flyers for Juneteenth, and literally one of them like put a picture of like a white man up there, and I was like, clearly I have to reteach the whole lesson. That's a reteach day. I'm actually gonna put that.
We're gonna put that on.
We're gonna edit the name out of the kid, but I actually took a picture of it because I was like, clearly I have to reteach the lesson. Like, clearly you did not understand. So yeah. All right though, but we will catch you guys next time. All right.
Peace.
What up? It's your boy, Brando from the Bando. Actually, I'm from the suburbs, not the Bando, but that's okay. I'm here to say thanks for watching the Polaris Network on YouTube. For exclusive shows and premium content, subscribe to the Polaris Network on YouTube right now. Seriously, what are you doing? Go subscribe. Go do it right now.